Hey everybody, welcome to Marriage Moment Monday. We're outside on the front porch because it's a nice day. And to make a point, sometimes you need to change because we are going to talk about stress. Stress in marriage. It's a good day to talk about stress in marriage because I just did our taxes.
Feeling pretty stressed.
Self-employed taxes, that's a stressful thing. But stress is a part of our life. It's part of everybody's life. Some of it is self-induced. Some of it can't be avoided. And so when you're experiencing stress or pressure or anxiety, those kind of things, they make their way into your relationship as a married couple. And you need to be able to identify those, the causes. You need to figure out how that affects your marriage. And then I think most importantly is you need a plan to deal with it. So let's talk a little bit about some of the causes of stress.
Okay, so you may think automatically that stress is always a bad thing or that it's from a bad crisis or something. Sometimes it's just a change, just a transition in life. You're having a new baby, you're moving and starting a new job and a new place to live. Something changes in your work or in your finances. I think finances is a big stressor for marriage especially.
So any kind of change, whether it's a bad change or even a good change, can cause stress just because it's different.
Right.
Okay?
And we talked about, as we were getting ready for this, just because we've gone through the season of rearing children, and now the children are all, it's an empty nest, we have the children all gone. It's a totally different experience, and it's not near as stressful as those years when we look back. Those were some stressful years,
Sure.
Raising 4 children and all the different stages that they were at. Some of it was just busy. It was just a lot of stuff. So, parenting can cause stress.
Very stressful.
And then, just like we were talking about, that certain seasons in marriage, certain times of your life, empty nest, full of kids, different seasons are going to be different kind of stress.
If there's a transition in your life from something to something else, it's going to be stressful.
Yeah. And sometimes you find yourself where you've got several transitions at once.
Right.
Maybe there's a death and you're moving and, all these different things hit at once, which sometimes happens in life.
It does.
And if you can understand that you're under a lot of stress, then you can help each other get through that.
And specifically when we talk about marriage, when you identify those things in your own life that are causing stress, you have to realize that they impact your marriage. They can affect your intimacy, they can affect just the bond that you have, your friendship, that there's some effects that go along with that.
Yeah, and if you have to understand too that if you're stressed and you're not managing your own stress, your marriage is automatically stressed because of that.
That's really true.
Yeah. And I think as we've talked about being married a long time, we've gotten to know each other better. I know when you're feeling stressed. I know when there's something coming up that is going to cause you to feel really stressed. Same for me. You kind of know different seasons of the year that are going to be more stressful for me at work, or you can recognize it in me when I'm just overwhelmed. And we've learned to help each other, complement each other in that, where one of us is just going through a time, the other one can pick up the slack. So that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work out like that. We don't always catch it, but it is something that we've tried to learn to do better.
Yeah.
So
you're going to have stress in your life. It's going to impact your marriage. What are some things that we can do to kind of minimize or manage stress in our lives, in our marriage?
Right. So some of the stuff that we're talking about has come from marriagemoment.org.
Marriage Moment.
that we're taking. We've read a little bit of stuff, and we also have lived through some of this. So one of the things is, we've said this several times in the last few months: find contentment and have gratitude.
Be a person who focuses more on the good in your life than on the bad. And that gratitude list is a game changer.
It is.
It really is.
It changes your mindset.
It does.
And it just changes your perspective. It's a small thing, but it's so important. Yep. So that's number one.
If you haven't done that yet, if you haven't made a gratitude list, taken time just to think about how good you've got it, how blessed you are, I'm telling you, do it.
Yeah, if there's a date night coming up,
or turn this video off right now and do it. It really is that big of a deal.
The next thing is, and this is wise, to fix what you can
Yep.
and just accept there are going to be some things that you can't change. Maybe there's a health issue that there's not really anything you can do about that for your spouse or for yourself. It's something you have to accept.
Yep. There are some stresses that are always going to be there, but there are some that you can eliminate, and there are some that you just have to do your best to fix them,
Yeah.
move on from them.
Yeah. So gratitude and contentment, fixing what you can, diffuse conflict.
Yep. Don't let conflict linger. We talk a lot on staff, sometimes with leaders in church, about the difference between resolving a conflict and managing a tension. There will always be tension in your life, and you just kind of have to manage them because you're two people living together, different expectations, different hopes, different dreams, different backgrounds, and so some of those are just constantly going to butt heads with each other, and it's just something you have to manage. But a conflict is something you have to resolve, and the longer you let a conflict go unresolved, the more stress it adds to your marriage.
And I would think that's where you find yourself ready to get a divorce or to walk
Yeah.
away, is when you've let that conflict just not be dealt with for so long. And that's so easy to do, to just not deal with it.
Right.
That's kind of a pattern that we can get into.
It's true.
So the next one is to unwind, and that's why we picked a different place and a different pace today. Sometimes you just need to unwind.
That's one of the best things you can do for stress is get a different place and a different pace. Change your schedule if you can. Change your routine. It really does add a breath of fresh air, and it helps you deal with stress.
Sometimes exercise. Sometimes you need to take a nap.
Take-
You need to have a good night's sleep.
Rick Warren says sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is take a nap.
Yeah.
I think he's right.
And then communicate openly, which is, of
Not
course,
always easy,
right.
right?
And when we wrote this down, we said, it may not be talking.
Right. It might not be a face-to-face conversation. Maybe it's an email
Yeah.
or a text or a phone call.
Writing something.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we touched on this just a little bit earlier, that to take care of your own health as a gift to your marriage. That's something that's in your control.
So I take care of me. That blesses our marriage.
Right. I
Makes
take
sense.
care of me.
Mhm.
I bless our
I
marriage.
manage my own personal stress, and it helps my marriage.
Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't
Yeah, it does. And so the bottom line that we had for this one rings very true for us. Over the last 8 years or so, we have come through a really difficult time with a couple of our children.
A lot of stress.
Kind of our family just went through a really hard crisis several years ago, and the statement that was made in marriagemoment.org is so true, that if you can work hard together and successfully get through a really difficult crisis, and if you haven't had one already, you're gonna have
It's
one.
coming.
It's just part of life.
Yeah.
Stress and crisis is part of life. And so when you successfully work through that, especially when you're talking about in your marriage, and you don't bail, you stay in and you fight and work hard no matter what it is, it increases your bond together
Definitely.
as a married couple. It increases intimacy, and it just solidifies commitment. And that is so true
Yeah,
from
for
what
sure.
we have walked through. And I'm so grateful. That's one of my things on my list, that we survived and we worked together, because I remember thinking back and looking at it thinking, this could destroy our marriage and destroy our family if we let it.
Right.
So that's a cool bottom line.
Yep. Well, you're going to have stress in life, and when you do, it impacts your marriage. So figure it out, identify it,
Get some help if you
get some
can't
help if
figure
you
it
need
out.
it. We have a counselor on staff. She'd love to help you. Contact us. We'll point you in the right direction. Sometimes just having somebody outside of your marriage look at it is so helpful.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, figure it out. Figure out the stress, how to manage it, and how to lessen the impact it has on your marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye.